Priti prahasitapangam alakai rupasobhitam lasat pankaja kinjalka dukulam vristakundalam surat kirita vilaya Aranupura mekalam Shankar Chakra Gada Padma Mala Mani Uttamardima Translation. The Lord is excellently beautiful on account of His open and merciful smile and His sidelong glance upon His devotees. His black hair is curly and his garments waving in the wind appear like flying saffron pollen from lotus flowers. His glittering earrings, shining helmet, bangles, garland, ankle bells, waist bell and various other bodily ornaments combined with conch shell, disc club and lotus flower to increase the natural beauty of the Kushtuba pearl on his chest. So not only is he glorifying the Lord, but he's also at the same time giving a very nice description of the Lord. Now in the purport, Prabhupada highlights this word prahasitapanga, referring to Krishna's smile and sidelong glances at his devotees. These sidelong glances you will only find generally Krishna dealing with his gopis. Yeah. You don't find in other pastimes. But here is interesting that Shiva is saying that he is showing sidelong glances. Right, so he does that and he's always like in a joking mood to increase the rasa. It's very interesting. And I've read many places Krishna does this sidelong glance. So and I've read also that devotees write poems and they say, oh, when will you give your sidelong glance at me or look at me at the side? So they consider that like a mercy. It's a very nice. Text 49. Sinhaskanda Tusho Bibra.
Sinhaskanda Tusho Bibra.
Sovagariva Kostubam. Shriyana Payinyakshipta. Nikashashmoro Sollasad. The Lord has shoulders just like a lion's. That means broad. Upon these shoulders are garlands, necklaces and opulets. And all of these are always glittering. Besides these, there is the beauty of the Kushtuba Mani pearl, and on the dark chest of the Lord there are streaks named Srivatsa, which are signs of the goddess of fortune. The glittering of these streaks excels the beauty of the golden streaks on a gold testing stone. Indeed, such beauty befits a gold testing stone. Nowadays I don't see it, but in the old days they used to have this kind of black stone and then they will rub it. Because
still do it.
They do, I don't know, but I don't see it often. Ladies, when they buy, they check. Because they can cheat with brass and so on. So when you do that, you can see the color difference. It's interesting. Text 50. Purarechaka samvigna Valivalgu dalodaram Prati Shankramaya Vishwam Nabhyavarta Gabiraya. The Lord's abdomen is beautiful due to 3 ripples in the flesh. Being so round, his abdomen resembles the leaf of a banyan tree. And when he exhales and inhales, the movement of the ripples appears very, very beautiful. The coils within the navel of the Lord are so deep that it appears that the entire universe sprouted out of it and yet again wishes to go back. It means very beautiful.
Six packs. Six packs.
Six pack. Well, he doesn't have a six pack. Rather, he seems to have a little bit of bulge and ripples like that. And that's considered more beautiful than the six pack. Yeah. So you can see there's a difference in what the scripture considers beautiful and what nowadays people say is beautiful. Right? In fact, Krishna has a slight bulge also, if you read his description. But yet he was the strongest of the strong. Text 51. Shyamashoni Adi Rochishnu
Samashoni Adi Rochishnu
Dukula Swarna Mekalam
Dukula Swarna Mekalam
Samacharvangri Jangoru
Samacharvangri Jangoru
Nimnajano Sudarshanam.
Nimnajano Sudarshanam.
The lower part of the Lord's waist is dark and covered with yellow garments, and a belt bedecked with golden embroidery work. The symmetrical lotus feet and the calves, thighs and joints of his legs are extraordinarily beautiful. Indeed, the Lord's entire body appears to be well built. So here you can see he has a form. It's not like he has no form. And yet people say he has no. Text 52. Padasharat Padma Palasha Rochisa
Padasharat Padma Palasha Rochisa
Nakadhyubhinontar Agam Vidonvata
Nakajubirno Tarangam Vidunvata
Padashaya Swiyam Apasta Sadvasam
Padashaya Swiyam Apasta Sadvasam
Padam Guru Marga Guru Stamojusam
Padam Guru Marga Guru Stamojusam.
My dear Lord, the two lotus feet are so beautiful that they appear like two blossoming petals of the lotus flower which grows during the autumn season. Indeed, the nails of your lotus feet emanate such a great effulgence that they immediately dissipate all the darkness in the heart of a conditioned soul. My dear Lord, kindly show me that form of yours which always dissipates all kinds of darkness in the heart of a devotee. My dear Lord, you are the supreme spiritual master of everyone. Therefore, all conditioned souls covered with the darkness of ignorance can be enlightened by you as the spiritual master. The Prabhupada tells us that Lord Shiva described the beautiful body. Now he wants to take shelter of the lotus feet. So, in meditation, this is very standard. We look from the feet up, not face down. In fact, you can see within, even with Krishna Rasa, you can see sometimes some of them look at his feet, some people look at him straight in his eyes, some look above like that, right? In this pastime like that. So according to the Rasa, they will look at Krishna in a certain way. So then Prabhupada also writes, and this is one of the reasons why we say the first two cantos of the lotus feet. Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be a transcendental sound form of the Lord. And the 12 cantos are divided in accordance with the transcendental form of the Lord. The first and second cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam are called the two lotus feet of the Lord. It is therefore suggested by Lord Shiva that one should first try to see the lotus feet of the Lord. This also means that if one is serious about reading Srimad Bhagavatam, he must begin by seriously studying the first and second cantos. Maybe that's why it's so difficult for you all to finish the second canto. So try to finish it. So there's very nice descriptions about the Lord's comparison of the Lord's toes and feet with flowers. Particularly lotus flower. And remember, previously we had so many different types of lotus flowers in the lake where Lord Shiva was, right? It's amazing. And over here, how many types of lotus flower you find? Two types. No, I've seen red and white. I haven't seen other types.
pink kind of.
They have lilies. Some of them call that lilies. Look like lotus also. It's very important to meditate nicely. Prabhupada writes, just like the sun dissipates the darkness of this material world, the effulgence emanating from the body of the Lord immediately drives up the darkness in the heart of the conditioned soul. Therefore, it's very important for us to study the Bhagavatam, the first two cantos. So anytime you have any free time, and if you don't want to do anything, you can always read again the first and second canto. Then when you do that, Prabhupada says, when one sees the lotus feet of the Lord, all kinds of doubts and fears within the heart are vanquished. So there is benefit, It not only purifies you, but it also uplifts you. And whatever you have doubts or fear, all of those will be put into proper place. And you see it in a right way. So fearfulness, Prabhupada says, is the result of material involvement. In the next paragraph. Vayam dvitiyam vinni veshata syat. Fearfulness is the creation of the bodily conception of life. So that's another reason why when we want to die, because we are so attached to the body, we become very frightened. And you see that when you go to the hospitals and you see people dying, they all don't want to die, they are so frightened. But we have to become detached to this material body. So, practicing Krishna consciousness allows us to become fearless. Because you see everything in proper perspective. Who you are, how you are relating to material nature, and your relation with Krishna. So therefore, whatever happens in material existence cannot touch you actually, right? You are spirit soul, so how can it touch you in reality, unless you identify with it? So therefore, Prabhupada says one should practice Bhakti Yoga. Of course, when we practice Bhakti Yoga means we practice under the guidance of a spiritual master, with faith, and then you get all the knowledge revealed to us. That's 53. Etad rupam anudeyam atma shuddhim abhipshatam yad bhakti yogo yada swadharmam anutistatam. My dear Lord, those who desire to purify their existence must always engage in meditation upon your lotus feet as described above. Those who are serious about executing their occupational duties and who want freedom from fear must take to this process of Bhakti Yoga. So basically, practice Bhakti Yoga and meditate on the Lord's pastimes, on His lotus feet. When you go to the temple, you see, take darshan, look at His lotus feet, pray for mercy like that. More often than not, I have seen it, people just come and then walk like that and walk out, Have you all seen it? Yeah. I remember one time one guy came late, after the deities were closed, and then he said, I came from so far away. We said sorry, but deities are resting now. I came from so far, I have to go now. Then we say, if you come from so far, then why don't you stay and live a bit longer? You got anything to do now? No, but I have to visit my friends and all. And then I've seen another group, they come, they say, oh, it's darshan, then so they're running, but they don't understand and look at the deities. They just look and then come out immediately, 1 minute, like that. So that means they didn't have the realization that this is a person. They don't understand that they can have actually a relationship. Most of the time they're thinking as long as they show themselves, then it's okay. Oh, they are okay. And they've done their duties or whatever. Yeah, so that's something we shouldn't become like, Text 54. Bhavan Bhakti Matalabhyo
Bhavan Bhakti Matalobhyo
Durlabha Sarvadehinam
Durlabha Sarvadehinam
Swarajyasyapi Abhimata
Swarajyasyapi Abhimata
Ekandenatma Vidgati
Ekantenatma Vidgati.
My dear Lord, the king in charge of the heavenly kingdom is also desirous of obtaining the ultimate goal of life, devotional service. Similarly, you are the ultimate destination of those who identify themselves with you. Here Prabhupada says, Aham Brahmasmi. So they are, like, I am Brahman, I am the same, like that. However, it is very difficult for them to attain you, whereas a devotee can very easily attain your lordships. Generally, those who study the scriptures, they tend to see it in a different way. And that's why Prabhupada quotes this, Vedeshu Durlabhama Durlabhama. It means they can study as much as they want, but they can never understand Krishna like that. So you simply by studying doesn't mean you get to go to Vaikuntha and Goloka. No, it's not like that. Okay? It's not like that. For us, it is through Bhaktyamam Abhijananti. So through Bhakti we capture the heart of Krishna and we give ourselves to Krishna.
I remember one phrase Srila Prabhupada says in his lectures, like everybody wants to be one with Krishna, but in devotional life we can be better than Krishna, Why don't we?
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's a good one. Everybody wants to be one with Krishna. Not just one, they want to either be equal or they want to be above Krishna also. Right? And you find in general most people don't know there is a spiritual existence. You can talk to many Indians, what is your goal? And let's say just ask them, what is when you do, what happens when you die? They'll say, I'll take birth again and come back as something else. So that's about all their knowledge is nowadays. But if they know something, they want to go to Swargaloka. That's about it. Goal of life is Swargaloka, which is the same as what the Christians say also. Right? You ask them what you do, when you go back to spiritual world, they don't have that knowledge. They'll say, we'll be with my family, everybody is there. So then you ask, what about all those people, those, are you going to look the same? Will you look different? They'll say, we look the same. So it doesn't make sense. So you look ugly in the spiritual world.
Prabhu, the heaven when they say is that I somewhere I heard it is actually spiritual world. When Jesus was referring, my Father is there. When Jesus mentioned it is actually
meant is spiritual. Yeah, maybe I do not know. But generally they don't know where they're going. They have no understanding of spiritual. What they do there. Some people say God is sitting on a throne, and what does he do? Judging people? Is that all he does? Isn't it? You think about it, that's not a great position to be even like that. So similarly, a lot of people in Vedic culture, they think they can only go back to highest position for them is enjoyment in Indra Loka or something like that. But of course, people who don't understand that they can serve Krishna, the yogis and the jnanis and the impersonalists, for them the purpose is to become one with Krishna. Aham Brahmasmi. You can't understand Krishna like that. It's very difficult. He says first with bhakti, then you can approach me. Otherwise, your consciousness is incompatible with the relationship with Krishna. In his personal form, that relationship is only established through that loving relationship or dealings. If it's not there, then it doesn't work. Then you have to go to other categories of liberation or stay in the material realm. So therefore, practicing bhakti is not just a ritual. It's not like that. It has to be meaningful. that's something, for each of you have to think, how am I going to develop this relationship with Krishna? You go through your spiritual master, but between you and the Lord, when your Guru is always there, but how are you going to develop that? So that personal kind of feeling must take place in your relationship. Just like you have a relationship with each of you, with your spiritual master. Similarly, you must have a relationship with Krishna also. 55. Tam duraradyam aradhya
Tam duraradyam aradhya
Gatam api durapaya
Gatam api durapaya
Ekanta bhaktya ko vanchet
Ekanta bhaktya ko vanchet
Adamulam vinabahi.
Adamulam vinabahi.
My dear Lord, pure devotional service is even difficult for liberated persons to discharge. But devotional service alone can satisfy you. Who will take to other processes of self-realization if he is actually serious about the perfection of life? So very clearly he says, you can't approach him through other process, only bhakti. Any other process is just nonsense.
This is pure devotion service is even difficult for liberated persons.
Yeah. So impersonalists and all, even though because they are attached, yeah, transcendentalists.
But that is the only thing that satisfies Krishna.
Yes, only the loving exchange is what he's looking. Because impersonal jnanis, yogis, and karmis, what are they doing? As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, they are very selfish state. So that doesn't please Krishna.
Hello? Yeah, Tulsi.
56.
Yeah, tell me.
Yatra nirvishtam aranam
Yatra nirvishtam aranam
Vrittanto na vimanyate
Vrittanto na vinanyate
Vishvam vidvam shayam virya
Vishwam vitram sayam virya
Surya vishpujita bhruva.
Surya vishpujita bhruva.
Simply by expansion of his eyebrows, invincible time personified can immediately vanquish the entire universe. However, formidable time does not approach the devotee who has taken complete shelter at your lotus feet. So he has amazing powers and potency. So even in the matter of creation, he can immediately, if he likes, he can destroy everything. Okay, so that's the idea here. But for a devotee, time, all this doesn't matter. It's no more. It's relative truth is only in the material world, time. In the spiritual world, there's no such thing as time. So even when a devotee, let's say he's not, remember we read in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, how when the devotee is not successful, he continues in the next slide also. So similarly here also, the point is for devotees, we don't have to worry about it. Yeah, Prabhupada writes, Suchina, Srimadam Gehe Yoga Prastha Abhijayate. So they always continue from where they left off. And then in the final paragraph, Prabhupada says, when Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, was instructing his assistants, he told them not to approach the devotees. The devotees should be offered respect, but do not go near them. So it's a very high position to be a devotee and to practice devotional service. So we should be very grateful to Srila Prabhupada for giving us this process. Next 57. Shanardinapi tulaye
Shanadanapi tulaye
na swargam na punarbhavam
Na swargam na punarbhavam
Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya
Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya
Madhyanam Kimutashisha.
Nityanam Kekutasya.
If one by chance associates with a devotee, even for a fraction of a moment, he no longer is subject to attraction by the results of karma or jnana. What interest then can he have in the benedictions of the demigods who are subject to the laws of birth and death. Right? That's why in Chaitanya Charitamrita it says, Kipa Vipra Kipa Nyasi Sudra Kena. Right? No, what's that?
No, I'm not able.
No, not that one. Another one. It's a moment.
Yeah, the moment's association with the saintly
Oh,
people.
Sarpamukti.
That's that verse I think.
Sadhu.
Sadhu. Lava Matra. So the same thing here. Yeah. By chance also, fraction of a moment, he no longer is subject to attraction or reason. So sometimes you see people just come wandering we go on Kirtan or Harinam, they just stand and watch. That moment can change them. And then you find them next week in the temple and then they are always performing devotional service. Yeah. So it is like that, All you have to do is bhakti and you will become fully satisfied. And therefore Prabhupada quotes the verse, Yayatma suprasidati. Simply by devotional service, internal pleasure comes about. Shubhada, auspiciousness. All this takes place. So for us, Srila Prabhupada is the pure devotee who is giving us the blessings. Alright? And therefore when we take up the process, all the acharyas, everyone is giving their blessings to us. And so therefore we can take up the bhakti process, bhakti marga. Text 58. Atanagangre stava kirti titayo antar bahishnana viduta papmanam Bhuteshvanukrosha sushattva-shīlinām Syatsangamo-nugraha esha-nastava My dear Lord, your lotus feet are the cause of all auspicious things and the destroyer of all the contamination of sin. I therefore beg your Lordship to bless me by the association of your devotees who are completely purified by worshipping your lotus feet and who are so merciful upon the conditioned souls. I think that your real benediction will be to allow me to associate with such devotees. Prabhupada compares that with the Ganges water. Right? People go there just to put the sin in the Ganges water. I think it's in the 9th canto that the pastime Bhagirath and so on. Ganges is coming down and then she said, I can't take all the sin, what to do, I don't want to take people's sin. Then he promises, if pure devotee takes bath in Ganga, then they will burn away all those sins. And then she agreed. So Prabhupada writes, in other words, when a person takes his bath in Ganges, he becomes freed from all life's contaminations. So it takes a long time though. You have to bathe for many years to purify.
So much sin.
Yes, because you have so much sin. But if you take shelter of a devotee, by their blessings, immediately we can go back to Godhead. So devotees are more, in comparison, actually more purifying than even Ganges, according to Srila Prabhupada. They can, and Vrindavan Das Thakur has sung that the devotees of Lord Chaitanya are so powerful that each one of them can deliver a universe. So main thing is we should go and preach. Prabhupada wants us to preach. Text 59. Nayasya chittam vairartha vibramam
Nayasya chittam bahirartha vibramam
Tamo guhaya guhayam cha vishuddhamavisha
Tamo guhayam cha visuddhamavisha
Yad bhakti yoga nugrihita manjasa
Yad bhakti yoga nugrihita manjasa
Mure vichaste nanu tatrate gatim
Mune vichaste natatrate gatim.
The devotee whose heart has been completely cleansed by the process of devotional service and who is filled by Bhakti Devi does not become bewildered by the external energy, which is just like a dark well. Being completely cleansed of all material contamination in this way, the devotee is able to understand very happily your name, fame, form, activities, etc. So here, if you practice nicely, all the contaminations cannot touch us. Okay. So when we wonder why we cannot make advancement and so on, all it means is we are not practicing properly. It all comes down back again to us, right? So that's why self-realization means you realize that you need to do something about it, and then you realize you are not the body. So coming to that stage of I'm not the body itself is very difficult. And that's why we're going through this process again and again, trying to read and practice and understand what Prabhupada is saying. So when we associate with devotees, by associating together, like I said last time, all the stones, they are rough stones, become smooth. So you help each other. Oh, we have this problem, let's fix that, and so on. So that is what association is all about. To help one another to go back to Godhead. Krishna won't be happy if you go back to Godhead and not help other people. He won't be like a first class leader. Of course, he's happy, but still, he's more happy when you help others to go back to Godhead also. So no matter who they are, whether your friends, your relatives, your children, or you always encourage them to pray to Krishna and do something. Whoever you meet, Yaradeka, Krishna Upadesa. So whoever you meet, you tell them something. This has helped me, changed my life, it's good for me. I'm sure it can help you also. Just give it a try. Nobody's forcing you like that. So when you do that, oftentimes you find that you are not attracted by material things also. Because your whole idea is to help someone connect with Krishna. And so by that process, that is also bhakti. You're connecting people to Krishna. It becomes bhakti. And so when you do that, then you become purified also. And therefore you are not attracted to any more material things. You become more dear to Krishna. And more dear you become Krishna, the less you are worried about material things. Of course, your duty you must do, just like Ritu Maharaj. He never abandoned his duty. Because sometimes in my readings I've come across where devotees, when they become very attracted to Krishna, they abandon everything. Household stuff, everything, and then causes some problem. Nothing that, of course Krishna takes care of their family and all, but still, I think for us we should set good examples so that people will say this is a good organization and the devotees are all, devotees are good also like that. If they see bad examples, then it won't be good for us, or Prabhupada especially. So we follow strictly the rules and regulations, but at the same time we do not do things whimsically. So again, Prabhupada says a devotee is called a Muni. The word Muni means thoughtful. A devotee is as thoughtful as a non-devotee is speculative. That means people who are not practicing Krishna, they come up with many, many nice theories, or they have over vision of what Krishna or God is doing or whatever. I remember one guy was talking, he's saying, he said, God is G-O-D, so that you flip it, it becomes D-O-G. So then where's the difference? What logic is that? Right? That's a really foolish guy. That is how people are. I'm not making it up. This really happened. I heard this guy talk and I was like, wow, what kind of logic they can employ, right? But if it had spelled something else, then what is this logic? Meaningless. Foolish.
If you don't follow God, you follow dog.
Yeah, that's true. That's what that's what the other person was saying. So why didn't you follow the dog? So the person wasn't happy. Yeah. Yeah. So we are very fortunate because of Prabhupada, we have temple services, deity worship, so many nice programs. All that to help us come to the level of not to be disturbed by the material energy outside, right? If you come out, what else is there? Bombarded by all this, got to get this, got to do this, God, buy. Right? As soon as you send your child to school, how many things they tell you in the school? You have to buy this, you have to buy that, you have to pay for this, right? Correct or not? Isn't that true? Cannot stop it, and you're like, what is happening? Paying and paying and paying. So that's what it is, material nature, and because the whole world at the present moment, society, everything is based on economy, and they worship money. Okay, so when we do services sincerely in the temple and so on, all these things will become minimized. Like Krishna says, right? The lake will become like a hoof print, like that. So you won't be disturbed so much. And then when you are very nicely following, then you will be blessed by Bhakti Devi at the same time. Text 60. Yatridem vyajate vishvam
Yatridem vyajate vishvam
Vishvasmin avabhati yat
Vishvasmin avabhati yat
Tattvam brahma param jyoti
Tattvam brahma param jyoti
Akasham iva vistritam.
Akasham iva vistritam.
My dear Lord, the impersonal Brahman spreads everywhere, like the sunshine or the sky, and that impersonal Brahman which spreads throughout the universe and in which the entire universe is manifested is you. So there's nothing different, no? The Lord and His effulgence is the same. The only thing is different aspect of the Lord. Different. You can't have the relationship you have with the Lord directly as with His Brahman effulgence. He says He is the source of the Brahma Jyoti, right? I maintain, right? Yeah, that is in the first canto also. He discusses three aspects. So there's three aspects of it, and it's all coming from the same person. But the relationship with each one is different. Okay. The first two, at the most you can have is impersonal relationship. But with Bhagavan himself, that's only when you can have real relationship. Okay. So how he's manifesting this effulgence all over the place, how he's expanding as Paramatma everywhere, it's very hard to understand. This is called Achintya Shakti. Inconceivable potency. Everybody is bewildered. Moyanti yat surayo, right? So you get bewildered. So you cannot think that I will understand. I will be the first one to understand. You cannot understand actually. When you think about it, it's just bewildering. And again, it boils down to Krishna reveals always. Not that you somehow or other with a microscope or a telescope you can see Goloka Vrindavan. Which is what they are trying to do with all the huge telescope. Like I said, I wonder what they really see. Because if you study properly, the whole universe is covered, layers of elements. So what are they seeing? Just maybe the layers. combination of layers may appear different.
It's 25,000 million light years.
Yeah, so many
The
numbers they
numbers,
give. But according to our understanding, it's only certain size
Yeah.
only, that's all. They ain't going further than that. How can we see? You can't see that. So that's why, even though the Lord is everywhere, right, in the cup, in the whatever we use, He's there. Paramatma is there. We still can't see that. So we're always confused by all these things. And yet, we think we can find out. They, like I said, no, they don't even know what is in the ocean. They're going out in the space trying to figure out the source of creation.
Because then they can make it up what they saw.
They're thinking, but they can't even find where it ends, right? You say the universe is expanding, but at one point it's going to slow down. What is this? It's based on imperfect senses and knowledge. That is why they come up with all kinds of different theories. Or they cannot all of them agree with one another. Right? Anyway, it's a joke sometimes when you talk to them. Text 61. Yo maya edam pururupa yashrijat
Yedam purarupaya sruja
Vibhati bhuya shabayati avikriya
Vibhati bhuya shapayati avikriya
Yadveda buddhi sadivatma dushtaya
Yadveda buddhihi sadivatma dushtaya
Tvamatma tantram bhagavan pratimahi.
Tvamatmatantram bhagavan pratimahi.
Dear Lord, you have manifold energies, and these energies are manifested in manifold forms. With each energy, you have also created this cosmic manifestation, and although you maintain it as if it were permanent, you ultimately annihilate it. Although you are never disturbed by such changes and alterations, the living entities are disturbed by them. Therefore, they find the cosmic manifestation to be different or separated from you. My Lord, you are always independent, and I can clearly see this fact. So here, Lord Shiva says he understands that the energy and the energetic are one and the same. The potency and the
Potent.
then the possessor or the potent. They are the same. It's coming from the same person. So when the energies are manifested in manifold forms means also each of these Shaktis that the Lord has, that it comes from Him, also has a personal form actually. It is not conceivable in the material side. But in the spiritual world, even time is a person. Okay, if you read the 10th canto, when Krishna and Arjuna go and meet Mahavishnu, some of the personalities who are serving Mahavishnu, one of them who's standing there is time person.
Vedas are person.
Versus Vedas, everything is a person. So his Shaktis have forms. It's not that they are, because we cannot see things, how certain aroma comes from the flower from one place to another, we cannot see it. And so we say it is particles, molecules, goes on the air and is floating and like that. So we think everything is like that also in the spiritual. But actually in the spiritual world, everything is a person. It's an individual. Right? The entire spiritual world is maintained by who? Balaram. Yes. His potencies. So the potencies also act animate and sometimes inanimate. Okay? So that also we have to understand. It's fascinating if you think about it. Right? There are a pillow and suddenly a pillow takes a form and walks away. Like that. It's just fascinating, And they all do it just to please Krishna. So therefore it's very difficult for us. We are so conditioned to seeing, everything from the material perspective. And so we are thinking that this is all permanent, because the Lord is so good, right? Om Purnam Purnamada. He is perfect. He created the whole universe perfectly. So everything is so good. We are thinking, why is this not permanent? Why should it end? And so we are disappointed. So the same way, this is because there will be Jivatmas who will not accept Krishna. So for them, you cannot allow them to cultivate such thought processes. So the Lord destroys it so that they understand that they are not the controller, they are not the real enjoyer like that. So ultimately they come to the platform of understanding this is not real. If they don't, then they become Nitya Baddhas, perpetually dying and taking birth and so on. But if they give up that attachment and become pure devotees, they become Nitya Mukta, get free eternally from the material energy. Text 62. Kriya kalapaya idameva yogina
क्रियाकलापे इदमेव योगिनः
Shraddhanvita sadhu yajanti siddhaye
श्रद्धान्वितः साधु यजन्ति सिद्धये
Bhutendriyanta karanopalakshitam
भूतेन्द्रियान्तः करणोपलक्षितम्
Vede cha tantre cha ta eva kovida.
वेदे च तन्त्रे च त एव कोविदाः
My dear Lord, your universal form consists of all five elements: the senses, mind, intelligence, false ego, which is material, and the Paramatma, your partial expansion, who is the director of everything. Yogis other than the devotees, namely the Karma Yogi and Jnana Yogi, worship you by their respective actions in their respective positions. It is stated both in the Vedas and in the Shastras that are corollaries of the Vedas, and indeed everywhere, that it is only you who are to be worshipped. That is the expert vision of all the Vedas. So even he is quoting scripture that there is only one person to be worshipped, not thousands of different types of personalities. Right? So he is only one. No matter, like Prabhupada quotes again that same verse from second temple, whatever desires you have, you should always worship Krishna. Because he is the one who is actually behind all the, whatever we fulfill, it's coming from him. Nobody can give us anything if the Lord doesn't permit. Right? Even when we do some good activity, if you do it purely for Krishna, then it becomes transcendental. But if you do a good activity and expect some praise or some kind of reward, you may or may not get. And then you will feel disturbed, disappointed, like that. So then, but the activity it wasn't a bad activity. Why then are you feeling disturbed?
Because it's not unmotivated.
Huh?
It's not unmotivated.
It's not unmotivated, but still you are feeling that because you have desires for position, respect, and all those things. All these things causes us to create our own distress. You see, the action itself is pure on its own. It's whether you want to accept it for yourself or you give it to Krishna. Right? Like for example, a devotee calls and says, can you pick up my child? It's so difficult for me, I'm stuck in the traffic. So then you say, no problem, I'll go pick. Then you pick and drop there, and then they don't say thank you, and then you come back, I did all that. But the action is good. You see, the action is a good action. It's a very nice thing to do. So instead of feeling pleased with, I did it as a service, then you are finished with it. Krishna, thank you for allowing me to serve. You see this total 180 degrees, then now they never say thank you. This is the difference between being devotionally practicing properly and not practicing. So you tend to bring karmakanda things into our lifestyle. Oh, I need some fruits, whatever I do. So think like that. Huh? We can, like I said, I always say that you can read and know many things, but if you don't practice it with the right attitude, it's not going to give you what you're looking for. It becomes material. Krishna is not material, he's spiritual. So you have to expect spiritual rewards. Means how your heart is feeling, how you are reciprocating. Anything nice you do, you can always come back to Krishna. Krishna, I did this. I hope you are happy. Exactly. So it becomes more with you and Krishna rather than you're worried about whether they say. And you never know, they may call later and come, or they can cook a nice feast and bring to your home and say, you did so nice as one day. And then if you're always hoping something like that, then it becomes fruity. But if you don't and you say, Krishna, I did and I hope you're happy, and you see that, it becomes pleasurable exchange. And you say, Krishna, why are you doing this? Like that.
It's always it's with Krishna
And
mainly.
yeah, whatever we do, you have to see how Krishna is involved. There, therefore, Krishna is the person that we should, at the end of the day, say, okay, you take care of it. I am not expert. Like 60. Or you leave it up to the most advanced person to deal with. Like 63. Tvamekadya Purusha Sukta Shaktis
Tvamekadya Purusha Sukta Shaktis
Taya Raja Sattvatamo Vividyate
Taya Rajasthatamo Vividyate
Mahanaham Gam Marudagni Vardara
Mahanaham Kam Marudagni Vardara
Surarishayo Bhutagana Idam Yata
Surarishayo Bhutagana Idam Yata.
My dear Lord, you are the only supreme person, the cause of all causes. Before the creation of this material world, your material energy remains in a dormant condition. When your material energy is agitated, the three qualities, namely goodness, passion and ignorance, act. And as a result, the total material energy, egotism, ether, air, fire, water, earth, and all the various demigods and saintly persons becomes manifest. Thus the material world is created. So now you can understand when he speaks this, how the creation process. So it's important for us to know. So the more we know how creation is, then we can see who's the source of it, right? The glancing potency towards the he says is in dormant, so pradhan. Then once that combination creates Mahatattva and the false ego arises. And then without the false ego we cannot take this body. Right?
Identity.
Yes. Very important false ego. False ego comes about as soon as you desire
Some identity.
independence from Krishna.
First one to come and last one to leave.
Yes, that's the last layer. But by the process of bhakti, you can uncover this very easily, actually. What is so difficult, the process in Satya Yuga by Prithu Maharaj, the yoga and all, Muktasana, all that you don't have to do, simply do bhakti yoga by Srila Prabhupada. Let's see how those things are compressed into such a package, we can go back to bhakti. Alright? This material is just for one purpose. We can come to enjoy, like the Lord. But you can see, unlike the Lord, we are suffering. We can try to enjoy. There is some pleasure, very tiny pleasure, but it's not permanent pleasure. Text 64. Shishtam Sashatyedam Anupravishtas
Srishtam Svasakjedamanupravishtas
Chaturvidam Puram Atmamam Shakena
Chaturvidam Puramatmanakshina
Ato Vidustam Purusham Shantamantar
Ato Vidustam Purusham Santamantar
Bhunte Rishikair Madhusaragam Yaha
Bhunte Rishikair Madhusaragam.
My dear Lord, after creating by your own potencies, you enter within the creation in 4 kinds of forms. Being within the hearts of the living entities, you know them and know how they are enjoying their senses. The so-called happiness of this material creation is exactly like the bee's enjoyment of honey after it has been collected in the honeycomb. That's interesting, huh? The bees actually they collect honey whole summer, spring, and they eat very little. Usually they use it for the babies, the newborn, and then the royal jelly is a special process. That one they only give to the baby bees that will become queen bees. So they keep like that. So when winter time comes, they cannot collect all the pollen or the nectar. So then they start taking their own honey little bit. So, but when you go and take all the honey and then put it back, then the bee will work harder to bring more. That's what the honey industry is. And remember, without the bees, you can't get all the fruits and grains. They do a lot of pollination. You can't do it by a man-made thing. It's very impossible. Because some of the flowers are so small. If you touch it, the flower will fall. So the bees can go there and dance and then do all things and come out.
Bring honey also.
Yeah, and bring the honey out also. So it's just amazing how the Lord has created. So the Lord expands as Paramatma, and then He goes into all the living entities, right? He goes into as the Virat Rupa form also, right? And He goes into Brahma also, and then He goes into the atoms, outside the atoms, like that. So many ways the Lord is going just to. If you think about it, He has put in so much, invested so much energy just to create so that we can separately, but at the same time we regret that all this enjoyment, suffer the consequences. If you think about it, it's just like amazing. Huh?
Actually, for the bees, the honey is like intoxication.
Yeah,
So that's why they collect so much.
it is.
It's
Everyone
intoxication.
has something, they all collect something. So the 4 kinds of bodies that Prabhupada discusses here, 4 types of living entities in the next paragraph, born within this material world. Some are born by way of an embryo, Jarayuja. Okay. By way of eggs, Andaja. Perspiration, Svedaja. Perspiration is like when they lay the eggs outside and then frogs and all that kind of thing. And like the trees, by way of seeds, Udbija. Udbija. Yeah. Regardless of how these living entities appear, they are all busy in pursuit of sense enjoyment.
So
Perspiration.
Andaja and perspiration are different, right? Andaja is eggs. Perspiration is it in the fishes? The perspiration?
No, like frogs,
They don't
Frogs?
lay eggs.
Well, kind of eggs, but then they put in like a bubble form, no?
Salmon.
Mhm.
Not salmon.
Salmon is also
Yeah, you can say salmon, all those fish. Outside, no?
outside.
Outside?
Yeah, the eggs are outside.
They fertilize everything, some of them like the frogs, salamander, all fertilize outside, not inside. The eggs drop, then the male comes and drops the semen, and then outside, then they are bubble and they are kept like that. Embryo, eggs, perspiration, and seeds. But Prabhupada says it doesn't matter how you are born. The only thing you're looking for is how to enjoy. It's a fact though. Think about it, even yourself, even as a devotee, you think you tend to want to enjoy. Not as much as you are a materialist, but still there is this enjoying tendency which we need to cultivate or move it towards Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada writes a very interesting thing. I've never paid attention to this. Remaining within the hearts of all living entities, Lord bestows remembrance